As we take a look at the second half of the Iowa football season, what do we have to look forward to? Plus, an update on Iowa quarterback Mark Gronowski.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button while you're there. 5-star reviews on the podcast side. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio here in the state of Iowa. You can hear me currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network each weekday from noon to 2. Talking the world of sports. And you can hear me in stations in Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and the Quad Cities. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Well, it is coming off a bye for the Hawkeyes, one of two that they will have this season. Iowa gets ready for the matchup against Wisconsin. We'll break down what we have to look forward to in the back half of this season with two losses already on the resume. Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. He's going to join us today. The week in the Big Ten with some major upsets, how that shakeup affects the Hawkeyes, and of course an update on Mark Gronowski, the latest on the quarterback, and an update from On3. But want to start today's show talking about the back half of the year. I'll look at the second half of the season, what this is going to be, what this is going to look like for Iowa. With the 3-2 record, the disappointment of the losses to Iowa State and Indiana, a lot of would have been, what could have been in both of those games, and certainly understand the frustration that is out there amongst the Hawkeye fans about this year. You look around college football, you look around the Big Ten and just say, man, this could be so much different with a play here, but that is where we are. Obviously, you start at quarterback and mentioned Pete Nako's had an update on Mark Gronowski's injury situation. We'll get to that here momentarily. But first, if Gronowski's not able to go, and even if it's a week or two that he's not going to be able to be out there against Wisconsin, against Penn State, whatever it may be, if it plays out, this is a real ability to see what Hank Brown has. With the bye week coming at a perfect time to get a new quarterback ready. We went back and we talked about really the first extended playing time that we saw from C.J. Beathard. It was awful early in his career. And then what it turned into, what was it, 5-19 against Wisconsin when he came in after a Rudock injury. And that one looked brutal. And a lot of people were ready to say, well, this guy doesn't have it either. We know what he turned out to be. And you're hoping that Hank Brown has a similar chance. I talked about the arm talent and what we saw in the game against Indiana. You saw some of those throws. He certainly has a live arm. Certainly has an ability. The next step then is processing, letting the game slow down for him. And, you go back to his career when he was at Auburn, got a couple of starts there, good against New Mexico State, big deal. Struggled in the SEC game that he played and had a couple of interceptions in that one. It's not just about the arm talent, and he definitely has that. Remember, we heard a lot of great things. Go back to spring football and what we saw during spring football from Hank and what we saw out of him throwing the ball around. Same thing during August camp. There were times that, we continue to hear that he was pushing Granowski. Now, I think that was more Granowski shaking the rust off and coming off that injury. And we know how much he struggled early in the season. But I think that's a component there that you have to be excited. And, another thing I want to see, if it comes to a point where very quickly, all right, Hank Brown's struggling, don't be scared for the quick hook here, because this is also about the future of your program. What the quarterback position is going to look like. And if it's not Hank Brown, then it's time, time to have Jeremy Hecklinski. Get Hecklinski out there with an opportunity to see what he can do in this offense. And the connection to Warren Ruggiero, what he did. And a lot of people believing that he was going to be the heir apparent at Wake Forest. He was going to be the guy that was potentially going to be a 4-year starter for the Demon Deacons. And see, if Hank Brown's struggling, don't be scared. Now, I get what you're saying. Trent, come on. This is Kirk Ferentz. I mean, if there's ever been a coach at any level slow to make a change at the quarterback position, we know that it is him. Well, let's have Tim Lester be in the ear of Kirk Ferentz and say just that. Be the coordinator, take that pressure and do the things that you need to see in order for Iowa to advance this offense forward and see going into next season. Do you have a quarterback, or do you have to go back in the portal again? because if you don't see it from Hank Brown, if you don't see it from Jeremy Hecklinski, that it's going to be right back to the drawing board again. I know that Tim Lester feels confident about the depth that they've created. This bye week now has given an ability to get both of those guys a ton of reps. It doesn't help the young guys, for development, but it's about getting those two guys ready because those are the two that are going to get the chance likely against Wisconsin this week on the road, and it's going to be their first Iowa start in that one. Speaking of that, an update on Mark Gronowski. This from Pete Nakos of On3. Says this: Iowa quarterback Mark Gronowski enters this week as day-to-day with his status for Saturday night at Wisconsin unknown, sources tell On3. Granowski did not suffer a season-ending injury against Indiana and spent most of the bye week rehabbing his left knee, unquote. So there's the update. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's kind of what we knew, but when you got a national reporter kind of dial it in to a bunch of different things, saying those kind of things, I think it's important to at least listen to what it says there. I mean, we're all day to day. It's not a real deep dive into that, but it certainly leaves you saying, all right, that makes a whole lot of sense for Granowski and what he is and what he's going to look like, even if he's able to go against Wisconsin. How limited is he's going to be? Because we know his greatest strength for Granowski is as a runner. And if he's not being able to be a runner, well, then that really takes away a lot of what he is and what makes one of his strengths as a quarterback. You take that away, and what kind of quarterback are you left with? And limited mobility, not just running the football, but also moving around in the pocket, being able to buy that extra time, those kind of things. If that is gone, what's Granowski going to look like? We'll obviously keep an eye on that. We'll hear from Kirk on Tuesday, and we'll get a little deeper, certainly knowledge, we hope, on that front. It's also Iowa football, and sometimes a little bit more difficult to get exactly what is happening on the injury front on that one. But we will continue to keep an eye on that here on Locked On Hawkeyes. What else to look for? As you look at the schedule, and we'll get to the Big Ten a little bit later on, Penn State falling to UCLA certainly takes some of the shine away from the matchup with Penn State and Iowa. Now, potentially, maybe that's not going to be a big noon kickoff, and suddenly you look at it and say, hey, maybe this be a night game. Put it under the lights, and we'll get a little bit of a jump on that. We'll find out later here on Monday exactly what the kickoff time is going to be on that front. What else I want to see from this Iowa football team the rest of the season now? The continued development out of the wide receiver position. Need to see more. A big guy, I think that's a huge part of that, is Dayton Howard, Dayton Howard, a guy that, of course, had the big catch against Rutgers up the sideline, had another catch against Indiana. Big size. I mean, he's got that prototypical size. Speaking of wide receiver, the return of Reese Vanderzee. And if that can unlock something with this offense and get more out of the passing game, as we've been continuing to hope to see more out of that, obviously that is going to be a huge component, getting one of your top wide receivers, if not your top wide receiver, back into the fold on that front. This is offensive line real. That's another thing I'm really keeping an eye on. We've talked about the numbers from Pro Football Focus and just how good Iowa has graded out with their offensive linemen. You feel great about the future of the left tackle position, but you also have three starters there, three senior starters in that lineup. So what that's going to be. Trevor Lauke is going to be your left tackle for the next 2.5 seasons. All right, great. Cade Peeper, excellent guard, feeling really good there. But then also after those guys, who's going to step up? And we've seen a few of those guys have to jump in at different parts, but that'll be a component, obviously, to keep an eye on. Defensively, really the biggest thing I want to see is about those young linebackers. And every day, as we talked about this last week, is it time to break glass, right, in case of emergency? And does that mean Carson Shire moving to the middle? We'll see about the injury that was sustained by Jaden Harrell, what he's going to look like out there in middle linebacker, or if it's time to see if one of the young guys is ready to go. And out of those redshirt freshmen, with Cam Buffington, with Preston Reese, if we're going to see anything out of that group that are going to be able to go over Derek Weiskopf, if any of those three guys are ready to go, even if it's sliding over, playing outside, he put Shire in the middle, if that's something that makes sense for this team and what they're trying to do. So that's where we are as we come off the bye week here. We'll talk a little bit more about the Big Ten and the way things break down. But had an opportunity Friday to talk with Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. Got that interview coming up here for you in a moment. We'll talk to Tom about this Iowa football team with the bye week. Also, going to talk some basketball with him. The big commitment on the women's basketball front. Also what Ben McCollum is doing, and a bit of a surprise. Iowa picked 4th in the Big Ten. As everydayers know, we talked about that last week. Top slots on this men's basketball team. We'll do all that as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Thread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It's actually tracking your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form. How about that? Making every rep safer and smarter. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get walkouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Thread Plus today on onepeloton.com. That's onepeloton.com.
Let's get Tom Kakert in here, HawkeyeReport.com. Hawks on a bye, as we know, but still plenty of news, and we'll get to that with Tom right now. Tom, Trent, and Ken, thank you for coming on. As always, appreciate it. So I guess we should start back to Tuesday with the coordinator press conferences. I don't think anybody expected to find anything out on Granowski. Just, I think when Tim Lester was asked about his QB, he used the term, it's kind of cloudy right now, or somewhere along those lines. What did you make of that, Tom? I'm not sure you've been able to, you don't speak Lester speak yet, potentially. But what was your takeaway when you heard that?
My takeaway was that the head coach is going to speak about this next week. Yeah. So I'm going to just be really vague and say, I'm not really sure how long he's going to be out. Yeah. And that's basically what he did. So my take on Granowski is, if they're playing this weekend, zero chance he was playing. Because, I mean, Tim even said he's rehabbing this week. So, I mean, it's, you know, he's not healthy. And I think it's not as bad as it could have been. And so it leaves open the possibility that, yeah, maybe he could be ready for next week, against Wisconsin. But I'm not sure that even that's realistic. We'll see. But I think it probably also tells us he's going to be wearing a bulky brace probably the rest of the year.
Yep.
I think that's what it's telling us.
That's a good point.
And, him as a runner, that would be to be seen. A lot of questions there. Frustrations from last week. The game was there to be had.
Yep.
And you let that slip away. And now you look what's in front of them and just how daunting this schedule is going forward. The easiest game might be the next one, that road trip to Wisconsin. And after that, just what a bear it absolutely is. 5 games in, how would you grade this Iowa football team? It feels certainly incomplete. I mean, if you were able to give that, but if you had to give a letter grade to the 2025 Hawkeyes at this point, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably like a B-.
Yeah, C+, B-.
Yeah. Got 2 losses that were there for both games, there for the taking, especially the last one.
Yep.
And they couldn't get it done. And now I think the most interesting thing will be if Granowski cannot be a mobile quarterback or a running quarterback, how does that impact the Iowa offense? Now that you got to kind of almost recalibrate your offense. In some ways, you're going to get Reese Sandersy back, it seems like, after the bye week. But the other thing is, the 2 of the next 3 are gettable for Iowa. Wisconsin is just a shell of itself right now. And you're going to get Minnesota at home. And those are 2 winnable games, 2 games that Iowa will be favored in, I think. The Wisconsin game will be close, I think, in terms of point spread. Penn State will be probably Penn State, maybe double figures. I don't know. We'll see. Just in terms of point spread. But there, you need 2 of the 3, because then you're going to come down the stretch after that bye week, and you got Oregon, USC, Michigan State, Nebraska. I mean, you're looking at getting to 6 wins. You got to start looking at that.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. How many times do you think Hank Brown's replayed that screen pass in his head? I hope it doesn't linger. It has to, right? I mean, that just has to haunt you. Two offensive linemen about to get in front of. I mean, they were there. The path was there, Tom. It's just really unfortunate because, as you both said, I like the way you put it. This was a winnable game. This was an absolutely winnable game, and it might have come down to that play. I hate to say it, but boy, that was a huge play in the scheme of things.
Well, and Tim said on Tuesday that was a touchdown.
Yeah,
it was going to be a touchdown. And I believe him. He's probably looked at the all 22. But if he throws that to the other shoulder, to the right shoulder, instead of back to the left and into the ground, if he makes that just a natural completion, he may have just ran right into the end zone and scored. And then, boy, everything looks different, doesn't it? It just does. Everything looks different.
Yeah. B plus A minded.
Absolutely. Right. I think that's the spot that we would be.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah. They're 3-2.
Yep.
We also saw during the game, the entry to Granowski got the headline, but Jaden Harrell also left that game. We saw a little bit of Montgomery, but with the bye week and also hearing from Phil Parker. And he didn't exactly close the door on those young linebackers. Preston Reese has got kind of the most pub because he was on the freaks list and just seeing him look like just a crazy man on the special teams when he's running around out there. But him, Buffington, that troika of redshirt freshmen, a chance that we see 1, 2, maybe 3 of those guys get a little bit more reps defensively.
Yeah, potentially. Carson Shire's playing really well. I think Harrell's playing pretty well too, but he may be dinged up with, he came out of the game with the knee issue and then went back in and then kind of, I guess, came back out again. So hard to say what his status is going to be. They feel really good about Jaden Montgomery, but Preston Reese is super intriguing. I think Seth Wallace termed it like he's like throwing live electricity in a bathtub kind of thing. He's just kind of all over the place and just he's kind of bouncing all over the place. You don't know what you're going to get, but he's got potential to be really, really good. But you might have to live with, if you do that, you might also have to live with some mistakes too.
Yeah, no doubt. With the exception of maybe a missed tackle or two, I thought far and away Entringer's best game as a Hawk. He's had some good ones, but man, I thought he was terrific for the most part last week, Tom.
Yeah, and he was really good. They're coming along.
Lutmer was good.
But Lutmer was really good. They've still got issues with just kind of dropping guys, instead of giving up 4 or 5 more yards, they've just continued. That's been a whole season long thing. And that didn't happen with Nick Jackson. That didn't happen with Jay Higgins. And that's got to be one of the things that's kind of driving Phil batty is that, and you can't really, I asked Phil on Tuesday, I'm like, how do you improve that during the season? Cause it's not like you can practice tackling a whole lot. You can do some drills, but you can't live tackle during the season. It's just not going to happen. So he talked about maybe doing some things differently in the spring where you do more of that perhaps. So we'll see if they make that adjustment in the spring, but they've got to address their tackling issues because it's a lot easier to operate when you're in 2nd and 9 than 2nd and 5. And that's where Iowa's been living a lot defensively.
Tom, it's a perfect time with it being the bye week to get a monster recruit in basketball, and the Iowa women's team did just that.
Coming off a loss on top of it.
Yes, that was a very good elixir, and definitely could tell by the tone of the message boards at Hawkeye Report that helped things out. McKenna Wolico from San Jose, no prior connections to the state of Iowa, had an AAU teammate said, maybe you should take a little closer look at Iowa. Fill us in. You followed the recruiting game a lot more and obviously know it at Hawkeye Report. What this means for Jan Jensen and company.
This is a huge deal. Last year, no pun intended with that Addie deal coming, and now you back that up again with another 5-star, and then potentially more 4 or 5-star players with Addison Bjorn still considering Iowa, Jenica Lewis from Johnston still considering Iowa, and that's you wondered, could Jan and her staff capitalize on the phenomenon that was Caitlin Clark and Iowa women's basketball. And I think this firmly tells us, they have, because you're pulling somebody who has like no prior ties to Iowa and to the University of Iowa, and you recruited her and you sold her on the culture and what this program could do. And I think it's a huge boost now. If they can get Heston Bjorn and get Jenica Lewis, then boy, you're talking about down the road, you're going to be talking about this team potentially, if it lives up to expectations. That's a roster that can take you a long way into March. So we'll see if they can get all those young ladies on the team, but they're going to have a lot of good pieces. I mean, Layla Hayes, they really like the other freshman that's come in. You've got Ava Hayden. You've got a lot of talent that's on this roster now.
Tom, has and I ask you this, no, you're way closer to it than I am. But when I watch what Ben McCullum has done this offseason, I'm not sure there's been a men's coach. Like Steve Alford got by on his name when he was named the next men's head basketball coach. And Lick was kind of, I'm not sure how he played, out on the circuit, etc. McCaffrey was, not the warmest of coaches seemingly out there, but Ben McCullum seemingly has pushed every right button this off season. Am I reading that wrong, or is that kind of the way it's been?
No, I think you're absolutely right that he knew that they needed to have somebody who was going to be front facing on the program, and not, Fran would do the stuff that he needed to do, but he was a basketball coach. He wanted to coach basketball. He didn't want to be a PR guy. But Ben McCullum's been, I'm sure he's been on your show. He's been on my podcast. He's been everywhere. Anybody who wants to talk to him, he's willing to talk to him for a half hour and sell the program. Fran didn't want to do that a whole lot. He just didn't. It wasn't like his thing to do. And he just liked coaching basketball, and that's fine. That's what he's hired to do. But you also got to shake hands and kiss babies too. You got to be a politician in this job, and you got to put butts in seats and help to do that and help sell your program. And Ben has done that. And I think, now they got to go out and win basketball games, and we'll find out if they can do that November 4th. Now they're going to have two secret exhibition games. So, the one at SLU coming up next Saturday, and then, Texas Tech. They were really close to having like a game where we could go see them play Texas Tech. It was really close. It was really close to happening, but just the logistics did not work out for it, which stinks. But that would have been a lot of fun at Carver Hawkeye to see that.
I think Texas really good.
Texas
team.
going to be really good. That's a top 10 team.
Yep.
Top 10 team this year. So, but that'll give them a good test in the secret scrimmage too.
CJ Moore of The Athletic has Iowa the fourth best team in the Big Ten with his preseason predictions.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
Maybe that's a little
he's right.
But if you have an All-American point guard, the pieces that are right there against Texas Tech a year ago in the NCAA tournament, plus the additions that they have, what's the top level? Is that it? Fourth in the Big Ten, and dare I say, could this team with the right break, or maybe a bracket opening up, could this be a Sweet 16 team?
Could be. I'm not ruling that out. I've got it. It's such a blank canvas, though.
Yeah.
We know what they did at Drake, but it's a lot of different pieces, and I can't just you can't ignore what they did at Drake, but you also can't project it a lot, because Big Ten is a very different animal than the Mill Valley. So you got to I want to see what this thing looks like, but Purdue's going to be the class of the Big Ten, and then
Michigan,
and then Michigan.
Yep.
Those two are the 1 and 1A, and after that, who knows? Illinois' got a whole new roster, and everybody's got them in the top 5, and they've got every
Euro,
every Serbian player in the country is. In the country of Serbia is coming over playing for the Illini. Every one of their player, and the last name ends in IC.
Yeah. Fascinating team. I think I grabbed them at 90-1 to win it all. Just what the hell? Maybe Underwood can do it, because we just don't know how they're going to come together. Hey, Tom, listen, we're out of time, brother. We'll grab you next week as always. Okay. You have a good week, Tom Kakert. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Good to talk to you. Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com.
Thanks as always to Tom Kakert joining us as we take a look at the Hawks in a deep dive here during the bye week. We come back, a look back at the Big Ten and what it means, plus some speculation. What time do you think Iowa Penn State's going to kick off? We'll talk about that as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite hood spots run on Square in your neighborhood. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood just that, the neighborhood. These are the places that are extension of home, whether it's maybe that corner sports bar that you love. How about the ice cream shop? You go with your kids. Oh, it's a great time. You know, they're excited. Those are the places that make it extra special and the kind of places that you want to go. In Iowa City, how about Wilson's Orchard and Farm? Took my kids, in fact, there. They also have Wilson's Cider House and Venue. Great local business, locally owned and operated. Maybe speaking of that ice cream shop, it's Heinz or Hertz Donut Company. Whatever it is, there is a place for you right in Iowa City and all across the country. Square is the place to go that makes those neighborhood spots just important for you. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I absolutely love all these places and the places that make neighborhoods exactly what they are. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege. Square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, make sure you go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season continues in FanDuel. They got an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get a $300 in bonus bets. How about that? $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love the FanDuel app for a myriad of different ways. Of course, the live betting menu. You can jump in there, watch the game unfold. You think you got this thing figured out? How about you fire away on that one? Or build a same game parlay. Put together a lot of bets, bet a little, maybe make a lot. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. And a big thank you to Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com for his time. So with Iowa off this week, it was a chance to watch a lot of college football. And, well, what did we learn? Obviously, the big upset of UCLA of Penn State, I think certainly changes the complexion of the Big Ten, the teams getting into the playoff, teams like Indiana and the like. And another component to that is what it's going to mean for the Iowa kickoff time with Penn State coming up here. Again, we'll find out later today, but we'll speculate about that a little bit more. How about Washington coming back, looked dead against Maryland? Two teams that are not on the Iowa schedule still. You look at both of those squads, and Washington maybe going to be kind of in that middle tier with Iowa, Maryland maybe as well. We'll see, though. Usually late in the season, they kind of fall apart, but exactly what that looked like. Watch a lot of Nebraska against Michigan State. A weird game. Sparty came flying back. Aiden Childs was out. Then he went back in. He struggled throwing the ball, made a couple of plays with his legs. Just an odd one. That Nebraska defense, still not at an elite level. They can stop the pass, but not very good up front. And we'll see what they look like. And we'll see what Raiola looks like by the time we get to the end of November on that one. Thank goodness Ohio State's not on the schedule this year. Woof. Minnesota, don't take anything away from that. Look, they just ran into a superior team there. Illinois still gave up 500 yards of offense against Purdue. I mean, just wow. And then, of course, the team that we're going to see this week with Wisconsin, they battled the Wolverines in Ann Arbor, jumped out to a 7-0 lead. Still, this Wisconsin team, they have some warts. And they started a new guy. They had 252 yards of offense. Look, this is a very winnable game for Iowa. This is one that you definitely look at and say, this is one you should put in the win column, even on the road, even if you have to go with your backup quarterback. That's how far Wisconsin has fallen, which is crazy to think. It's not that they will. It's not an automatic, and there's certainly no such thing as an automatic win, as Penn State found out this week. So let's talk about that. In the Big Ten that week, first, there's a Friday game as Nebraska goes to Minnesota on Friday night So we don't have to worry about the start time for that one. The Notre Dame USC game has already been announced. That's a 6:30 game on NBC, so that doesn't fall under the Big Ten footprint for TV. A lot of people speculated this would be the big noon kickoff, and it very well still could be. That will be announced later today. Other games, Purdue Northwestern, that's not going to be it. Oregon going to Rutgers, potentially. That could be one still. Struggle to see Oregon being put in that spot. Michigan State goes to Indiana. Just Sparty hasn't kind of held up their end of the bargain. I do wonder Ohio State going to Wisconsin, if that one might fall into the big noon kickoff. Two name brands, we know, obviously, plus an opportunity to put the number one team, or is Fox holding off and wants to put Ohio State in some different big noon windows and get a hold off on that one? Probably the one, though, that I think makes the most sense is Washington at Michigan. Makes a lot of sense to put it there. Obviously, the brand, two teams that played for a national championship against each other a couple of seasons ago. That would be the one that I would speculate. Could we see a 2:30 kickoff? That'd be about perfect on CBS. Potentially, maybe that's the direction that they head on that front. There's also going to be a different window because the USC Notre Dame game is a night game on 6:30. There's no NBC game on the evening, that one, and how that exactly is going to look. So that is some speculation about the way this plays out. But again, we'll find out later, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll also hear from Kirk Ferentz tomorrow as his weekly press conference will be happening. We'll break that down. Todd Brommelkamp also going to join us, and we'll talk with Todd in our Tuesdays with Todd segment here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. If you're watching us on YouTube, again, hit subscribe. It just takes a moment and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're on the podcast side, we're looking for 5-star reviews. Hit us up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks for being with us. We'll be with you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.